and the school district that I worked for was a part of the Lucy Calkins project, which I don't know if you're familiar with Lucy Calkins, but she is the writing teacher guru, and what she believes is that children need to have purpose to get production with their writing, and so that's what we're really going to focus on tonight. And I do have our agenda, and I apologize if I'm not great with technology. I teach kindergarten, so we don't use a lot of it. We will get into the developmental stages of writing. We'll talk about the grade level expectations. So I see it's kind of equal. Raise your hand if you're a kindergarten parent. Okay, maybe it's not so equal. Raise your hand if you're a first grade parent. But we'll talk about what to expect and what's to come for those of you who are first grade parents. And then we're going to talk about the writing process because it really looks different than when we were in kindergarten and first grade when we were learning how to write. We'll talk a little bit about how to approach spelling. If we have time, we'll talk about handwriting, which I know is a big concern for a lot of parents. And then how you can best support at home, and I will have many, I'll take any questions you have along the way. We have paper and pen in the middle, so if you have a question, just jot it down, and if I don't answer it, then we can address it at the end. Okay, so I have a quick video that's going to show you all about the developmental stages of writing.
Developmental writing stages. Many adults can forget that writing is not instant. It takes time to meet the adult standards of writing. Just as we don't expect a baby who can barely sit up to be able to walk, we should not expect a 4-year-old to have perfect spelling, grammar, or handwriting. Parents understand that their baby is physically developing his or her strengths and abilities. They celebrate what the baby can do at each stage of development. In the same way, we as adults must gain knowledge of a child's writing development so we can celebrate what they can do. So what are the stages of writing development? The first stage of writing development is drawing. Writers tell a story through pictures. The next stage is scribbling. This is when writers use random markers to express his or her ideas. The third stage of development is letter-like symbols. Writers begin to form shapes similar to letters. Writers then begin to use actual letters and try to match sounds from their story to the letters. Currently, they have not developed spacing. Soon after, the writers are able to use additional consonants for each of the words in their story. As the writer develops, he or she is able to use initial and final sounds for each of their words, even including short vowels. Next, the writer is seen spelling in words with more vowel sounds and will be able to start spelling sight words and familiar names correctly. The writing becomes readable. Remember to always celebrate each stage of your writer's development and treasure your writer.
Okay, so as you can see, I think sometimes as parents, or at least if you're a perfectionist like me, you want your child to produce something that's legible, that you can read and understand, and your child also senses that perfectionism. They might be asking you, how do you spell this, or how do you spell that? And so it's really important that we're mindful of where they're at and respect and honor the time and development for them to get to where they need to be. And so in kindergarten, it's pretty simple. We want them to be able to create illustrations that include settings and characters. We want them to write independently with stamina. We use that word a lot. You know, we build our stamina. And so in the beginning of kindergarten, I would set the timer for 2 minutes. And I'd say, writers, we are going to write for 2 minutes. And of course, many of them could probably write more, but after 2 minutes, we would celebrate and we would have a chart on the wall. And now if you come into my kindergarten class, my kindergartners can write for 20 minutes uninterrupted, and they are engaged the entire time. And so we have to remember, I have to remember, okay, the beginning of the year of kindergarten looks a lot different than the end of the year, and I have to remind myself every single year. And so it's about building stamina, that they're able to communicate their ideas and information effectively. There are times, even with my years as a teacher, where I look at their work and I'm not quite sure what it is that they're trying to tell me, or what the story is. But if they can communicate to me, that is one of the expectations that I have. And that they're beginning to sound out words and writing sentences. And in kindergarten, you're not going to see the spacing as much. You'll see a lot of the string of writing, and it's because they are thinking so much. All of these ideas are going on in their brains, and they're trying to sound out the letters that they are just putting it onto paper. And there's a time and a place to address leaving the spaces and the conventions, but our first goal is that they love writing and that they produce something on paper. So first grade looks a little bit different. In first grade, the students are now working on genres. And so they're working on opinion pieces and informative pieces. They write narratives, and not only do they get support from their teacher, but they take feedback from their peers. And we do a little bit of that in kindergarten, but it's really neat to watch the first graders give ideas. When they share it during writing, someone will say, I'm a little confused about your story. How does it end? And so the kids talk to one another, and that's something that you can do at home with your child as well. Have your child, if you have a sibling, have them read the story to the sibling, because siblings don't lie. They'll say, I don't get it, or what do you mean by that, or wow, that's a really cool story. And so that happens in first grade. And then in first grade, we really get into those conventions. And writing conventions are the capital letters in the beginning, spaces between your words, spelling, and the punctuation marks. And just first grade parents, I'm just curious, did you see a big jump with the writing from kindergarten to first grade? Yeah, I'm amazed. When I walk into the first grade classrooms, I think, wait, you were with me 1 year ago? It's amazing. They go from writing, 2 or 3 sentences to page-long little essays. Okay, so tonight's goal is for you to really understand that children have to have a love for writing to get production. And there are many ways to do that. And I'm just going to show you a little clip to start the evening. This is my daughter. She's 2 in this video, but she was 3 years old at the time, or she's 3 now. And we write for everything. Oh, we're in Target and she sees a toy that she wants. Well, I'm not buying a toy just because we're going to Target. But you know what? When you get home, why don't you add that to your list for Santa? Or, okay, we're going grocery shopping, and you know what? I know you need some more string cheese. Can you write that down? Now my 3-year-old does not know her letter sounds. I really believe in play. In this video, I use writing to prevent a tantrum from happening. So you'll see what happens.
Dear Mom, I'm so mad. Write it down. I'm so mad. You stopped giving me dog treats to give to the doggies. I love to give treats to the doggies. Love, Lucy. Don't forget to sign your name.
So, this was in the Terrible Twos. I don't know if any of you have younger kids, but this is how we prevented tantrums from happening. And so when my daughter is about to just explode, I'll go, oh, you must be so mad at Mommy. You better get a pen and paper. Let's write this down. And I do the same when I'm really mad at her. I'll go, oh, I am so mad at Lucy. I'm going to get my pen and paper, and I write it down so that children understand their words have meanings, and you can put it onto paper, and you can communicate that way. And usually by the time they're done writing, they've kind of forgotten what they're mad about to begin with, and it's a win for everybody. So. Oh, no,
Dear
sorry.
Mom, I'm so mad.
I really. There you go. Sorry, I told you I'm not very good with technology. Okay, so when I was growing up, writing looked like this. The teacher would give a sentence that said, I like, and you would fill in the blank. Does that sound familiar to you? And I didn't love writing. When I was a kid, writing was boring. I did what I was supposed to because I was a perfectionist, but it didn't mean anything. And I didn't really find a love for writing until much later. And so we want to really prevent that. And so at our school, we use Writer's Workshop. And what that means is the students that they learn that stories are worth telling and that everybody has stories. And they learn that they can write to communicate a want or a need, an opinion. They can write down stories just to remember and to share with their friends. And they can also be experts of their writing. And so we really allow the student to choose their own topic. We don't tell them you have to write about the weather or you have to write about, whatever it is that we're studying. So it's really student choice. I've talked a lot that we tell them to increase their stamina. And so when you're writing at home, I think you could do the same thing. You could say, you know what, I want to write a book this week with you. Today, we're just going to write for 5 minutes. I just want 5 minutes of quiet writing. I'm going to set the timer. Let's see if you can do it. And then the next day say, oh, yesterday you wrote 5 minutes. Let's try for 7 minutes. And just keep increasing that. And then in Writer's Workshop, they have an audience, their peers. And then they also have teachers. And the teachers always provide mini lessons. And that's where we address those conventions. What does it mean to leave finger space? Or what does it mean to include a setting? And so it looks very different. We have a mini lesson, the kids go, they write on their own for 20 minutes, we come back together and they share their writing with their peers and they get reviews, comments, critiques from their classmates. And also while the students are writing, it gives me and the teachers an opportunity to go individually and conference with each of the students. And what's great about that is kindergarten and first grade, every student comes in at a different level. And so what your child's goal is may look different than what your child's goal is. And so they're really working and they're appropriately challenged with their writing. And at the end of our Writer's Workshop, we publish the writing. And that's something I'm going to share with you about how you can publish writing for your own child. And it's really purposeful because you give them an audience. So our next publishing party, we're going to have our 4th grade buddies come down and the kids are going to read to them. But I've also seen teachers where they'll send the letters and the writing to like a highlights magazine and try to get it really published inside of those magazines. So that's always very exciting. And so, does anyone have any questions about the writing process? Yeah.
Sorry, just general. Is this document going to be available online for us?
Yes,
That's all it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's all it is?
It's being live streamed right now.
It's being live streamed now, but then we'll post the slideshow after.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure not to kill myself writing.
Yeah, no, don't write everything down, of course.
All right, thank you.
And something that is a little bit different than when I was a child is that we understand that writing is a process. And so we can take the same piece of writing and go back and edit it and revise it and add more details, and it doesn't have to be complete in one sitting. This is really important and hard for kids to understand. It's hard for adults to understand too because we think we just want to finish. We want to finish. And so a lot of kindergarten writing and first grade writing is this is a process, and so that when their work is finished, they have a lot of pride because they can see where they started and where they ended. And so here is a little video of, I'm not going to show the whole thing, just a minute, so you can see what another class looks like during Writer's Workshop. This was available on YouTube. I was trying to film myself. It wasn't working. I do have a video where I did film myself, but this is what Writer's Workshop is kind of mirrors what it looks like in our classrooms.
This is a peek at some kindergarten writing at Writer's Workshop. It is now November, and the students are really used to the routine, and they are very excited about writing. They are writing independently, and as you can see, quite a delightful time. Lots of students working independently. So the students also choose the paper that they'd like to use. They staple their books together independently. And we are at our independent stage right now. Our writer's workshop starts with a mini lesson, and then after the mini lesson, the students work individually, and then after the individual time, we have a time for sharing, and then we wrap it up. And our writing sessions last from 30 to 40 minutes, and you can see here, they think, plan, sketch and draw, write, revise, and then the green stage with the green pen is editing. And here, during writer's workshop, I can have the conferences with individual students checking in. Also, sometimes we have small group meetings and opportunities for them during this time to just marvel and enjoy the writing time.
So I'm going to show you a quick conference that I had with one of the students, and this is one of the parents here. They gave me permission to.
I'll get that, no worries. I just want to turn this up a little.
Yeah, of course. So this video is me. I was filming, so it was kind of hard, but I'm conferencing with a student, and the first goal was for him to not just have one sentence on the page, but for him to tell me a story, because in the beginning of kindergarten, it was just, this is a train, this is a snake. It was just telling me what his picture was. And so this is really exciting when we have this meeting, because he's telling me an actual story. But you'll see all of the letters are squished together. There's no space yet. And so this is the first time we've met. This was earlier, this was on Monday that I filmed this. And so he reads it to me, and then I went back yesterday, and we talked about, hey, let's look back at this writing. Can you read it to me? And he couldn't. And I said, because we didn't leave the finger space. But I had the video to show him, and that way we could leave the space and rewrite the work just by taking a paper and pasting over and having him leave that finger space. Giddy, go ahead.
In the night, I had drew a digger. I had to change the asphalt. I am making a pile. Later I'm gonna put it on a dump truck.
I'm gonna put it on a dump truck. Great job. So tomorrow, look, you did all of those sounding out all by yourself. So tomorrow we can take this and we can leave finger space between the words. Pretty good, huh? Are you feeling proud of yourself? And so those are kind of what those conferences look like, and you can do that at home with your child as well. And make sure that you do video what they tell you, because kids forget. They know what their story is, and you can see, like he wrote dump truck, and you can see like the CHRUK, but I remember in that moment, I meet with so many kids that the next time I conferenced with that child, if I didn't have that video, I may not remember what it was that he was trying to relay. So this is Miss Alexandra. Does anyone have Miss Alexandra as a first grade teacher? Okay, so this is her writer's workshop, and this is where kids are actually writing together. And so this is kind of a little preview of first grade. Did you guys notice that the kids are just spread around the room? And even though they're with a partner, do you notice that engagement? And so that really goes back to choice, like giving kids the choice of where they want to write, who they want to write with, but they're all writing. And it's just really just such a neat process. So we have a contest, and I've got some giveaways that I know everyone wants to participate. If you can take a writing utensil and a piece of paper, I'm gonna give you a minute to win it. Don't get too excited. Okay. So, this is a kindergarten writing, and I want to see if you can write down what you think this child is trying to tell us. What is this child's story? And if you need to come closer to see, feel free. I'll give you guys 1 minute. Now get closer. A lot of you have the face that I had my first year teaching, I'm sure. Now I'm an expert, so I can I'll give you another about 10 or 15 seconds, and if you could just let me know, I tell my students to just put your hand on your head, that I know that you feel like you're ready. Oh, wow. I see that back table. Real hard workers back there. Okay, pens down. Now here's how this is going to work, and I know that all of you are going to be very honest. I'm going to tell you what it says, and you're going to give yourself a point for every word that you got right. Sounds good? Okay. And I might take some shout-outs, what you think. So we all know the first word is? I lost my tooth. The answer is tooth. I lost my tooth. Thought, good job. And I thought it was a piece of ice cream, so I threw it in the trash. Give yourselves a round of applause. We might have to raffle off those giveaways. Oh, wow. I think you really do. I guess you do get practice when you have a kindergartner or a first grader. Okay, yes, so this story was, I lost my tooth and I thought it was a piece of ice cream, so I threw it in the trash. This sounds like a little story to you or I, but for this child, it was a big story. And so she wrote about it, and this is just page 1. I mean, she really went into the details with it, the many details, but you can see, this is after we've edited, so she's now added the finger space. She started with the capitals. She still has some capital letters in between, but that's really normal. So, stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Stand up if you got 7 points. At least 7 points. Okay.
Oh, at least.
How many of you got
Oh, yeah.
8 points? Stay standing if you have 8 points. 8 points or more. Okay. Stay standing if you got 9 points. 10 points. Did all of you get them all right? Because that's going to make me really nervous. 11 points. 13 points. You can do it. 15 points? Did you guys all get it all right? No? Oh, raise your hand if you got every single part of it right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Everyone else sit down. I've got some nifty prizes. And so you are going to get this smart putty that you can use for building that fine motor skill. Just don't use it around a couch. And oh, and you get some silly scented markers because writers love to write with multiple tools. And writing utensils, and who else had them all right? There was 4, right? You don't be shy. You can choose a little dirt never hurt writing activity or just go outside and play writing activity. Okay, so that was just a little fun break. So let's talk a little bit about spelling. The first time that you look at your child's work, I'm sure that you may only want to discuss those misspelled words or those mistakes that you see. I want to do it and I'm the teacher. But we really want to resist that urge. We want to discuss this message that you're trying to, we want to discuss the message your child is trying to convey, and we want to say something positive about what they attempted. We want them to feel good that they made an effort. So for example, if your child uses the word anxious instead of writing the word sad and they misspelled it, well, I'd rather have a kid use fancy vocabulary than try to write something that's easy for them to write. And so we really want to say, wow, I really like the way that you tried to spell that word anxious. That's such a big word. And if kids think that spelling is the most important thing about writing, they won't take chances with more interesting words. And I know because I grew up and I wanted everything to be right, and so I wasn't a creative writer. And I have kids at all levels in kindergarten, and all levels are writing interesting and creative pieces of work because they're not so concerned about the spelling of it. And there's a time and place for that. I'm going to teach you one trick about how to teach the kids how to spell. And so in kindergarten, we do say it, clap it, write it. And so the first thing we do is, if it's a short word like dog, I'll just say, just chop it and sound it out. G. What do you hear first? G. And you can help your child with doing that instead of just saying dog, D-O-G. Let them sound it out. And some of them may only hear the D, some of them may hear the D and the G. But what about those big words like banana? We say it, clap it, write it. So say it, banana, clap it, banana, write it. What do you hear first? So they write the B. Nan, N-An, And then, after they've tried writing those big words, I'll say, do you want to see what it really looks like? And we celebrate how close they got to the actual spelling. Now in first grade, you do have spelling tests, and they do have, little spelling rules. And so that's something that you can address when they're writing, like, you know that silent E at the end. You know that rule. So you wrote cat instead of Kate, add that silent E, and that's something that as you're looking at those spelling tests, you'll know what they should know already. But again, it's hard if you want your child to have everything spelled correctly, but spelling comes with practice, and the more they read, the more they'll correct themselves. Does anyone have any questions about spelling? Yes.
So, one of the homework assignments this week was to do the SH words. So my son he chose shattered, which was a great word. And he spelled it incorrectly. And I let him send it out, and then I said, okay, well, do you want me to tell you how to spell it? But then he's like erases, and he gets kind of that like, oh, I did it wrong, and I'm not quite sure. How would you suggest I?
Yeah, absolutely. So this happens too with any kid because they want it to be perfect. And so the way that I would address it, just like you did, like, are you ready to see how close you were? And I would say how close you were, and I'd say, let's write it correctly underneath it so that they're not erasing, and I would have them write it underneath. You're welcome. Okay, and so this is a topic that a lot of parents want help with because handwriting it's tough. and it's like, it takes a lot of practice. Does everybody know how to hold a pencil? Yes? So, I hold it incorrectly, but I've really taught myself. So if you want to practice, we say pinch Ned's head, which is the pen, put him to bed, give a pillow for his head, and tuck the animals under the bed. So this is how you want your child to write. Now, some of them, for support, will put their finger over, and that's how I write. And it doesn't mean they're going to have, atrocious handwriting. It just means that when they get to those upper grade levels and you're writing more, their arm might get a little bit more sore, a little bit more quickly. And so with the handwriting, when your kid is writing at home, the biggest thing is just make sure they're holding the pencil the right way. That you can stop if you see them writing. Stop the flow and say, oh, how do you hold your pencil? And you could just do games where you go, okay, we're going to drop it, pick it up, and just drop, pick it up, drop, pick it up, and you just count how many times they picked it up the right way. So I think that's the biggest, because it's really hard to unlearn the habit of holding the pencil the wrong way. And so that is my all day. How do you hold your pencil? How do you hold your pencil? And they have really great pencil grips online. On Amazon, they're really cheap, they're affordable, and I'm sure your teachers, if you want some, your teachers can get some to send home, and those really help the child, like it forces the child to hold that pencil the right way. We use handwriting without tears in kindergarten, and so we start with the capital letters because capital letters are all the same size, and they're really easy to differentiate. And then we get into the lowercase level letters, and they learn to write in between two baselines. Now, can you tell this is a house? Because I drew it myself. We tell the kids that all letters stay in the house. Some letters go up to the roof. Some letters just stay on that first floor, and some letters dip into the basement. And so that's the language that we use with them. And so if I was writing my name, I would start at the top, and I'd go down, and I would stay inside. Oh, I don't have any letters in my name that dip underneath. But let me just make a G here. And if your child is a native Californian, which probably most of them are, and they don't know what a basement is, which I found like, this is not really working, this teaching technique. The other thing I tell them is that pretend that there is a shark. Okay, I can't draw a shark, but just pretend that there is a shark underneath the words here, and that shark can eat letters that don't have hooks. So the only letters that should be dipping underneath are those letters that have hooks, because that shark cannot go after that letter. It will injure itself. And the kids love that story, and I usually draw a really bad shark, and I go, oh, I'm just not an artist. You can come up here and do a shark for me. And then they come up and they do a much better shark than me, which is, if there's somebody here who could draw a great shark, you're welcome to take the marker. But yes, that's the biggest thing with handwriting, is that they're holding the pencil the right way and that they're respecting the lines. Does anyone have any questions about the handwriting? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share that we say that the letters have a cat tail. Hanging.
Oh.
So I just envision if you draw a little cat and the tail is hanging, and some kids respond really well to that. Not necessarily on the letter, but like on the house.
Yeah.
They have that little.
Oh, and like have a cat and then have the tail hanging
Yeah. So they
underneath.
respond well to that.
I love that. Thank you so much. Now, she is a teacher at another school. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay.
What about the letter Q? What do you think about Q?
Well, Q has a backwards hook. Yeah. Yeah, but you are Sebastian's dad. You would ask that. That's where he gets that from. Yeah.
So Pepsi, like when I was a kid, I learned something called chameleon, and so we did.
Yes, I taught chameleon when I first started teaching.
So you know, my handwriting and everything is very slanted and like, you know, like they did almost calligraphy style teaching. And she's kind of having a hard time because she wants to mimic my writing, and I mean, I can do I'll do whatever she's supposed to be doing. It's just that this is like a daily thing, you know, when we're doing the writing together, something, I'll do it, the up and down straight thing. So I'm just curious, what should we be doing with her?
I know your handwriting, and it's so lovely, and I really think the Demelian also has, I mean, that really sets them into place for cursive in the later grades. So if that's what she feels comfortable with, you can
Is that
do
okay?
That is okay, yeah, that is okay.
I just want to have permission because I don't want her to not.
Yeah, I just don't want letters floating all over the paper or being formed the wrong way, because the Demelian handwriting, for those of you who aren't familiar, it goes on a slant. It's something that was really taught in like the 90s, the early 2000s. I was taught the Demelian way as well. But the letters are still formed the correct way, the top to the bottom, they follow those rules. So what can you do at home? Because you're obviously, you know, you're not going to set up a writer's workshop, a mini lesson at home, but I do want to give you some ideas. So the first is have a story-filled life. Read to your child. Talk about what the author did in the book. Say, wow, I love how the author, you know, made the words really large on this page because they wanted us to read it loudly. And tell stories. Tell family stories, you know, around the campfire. Just tell stories about your day, because the more the children hear stories, the more they make connections to their own life and their own stories, and then they get ideas for when they come to class to get those stories on the paper. In the beginning of kindergarten, we see a lot of, I don't know what to write. But as I give more my own personal stories, they start to have their own connections, and then they start to build their own, you know, repertoire. Let your child see you write. Write thank you cards, write shopping lists, journal entries, emails, and blogs. If something funny happens, and I do this at home, I'll go, I need to write this down, and I have a little like daily journal, and I just write it down in front of my daughters. Not, you know, they're 1.5 and 3, but I'm hoping that this, you know, will kind of build into a love of writing. And like I said, if you're mad at me, write me a letter, pull it out, and just get it down on paper, and we can talk about it when you've cooled down. Have lots of writing tools available. You would not believe if I just give the kids a pencil, they might write 1 or 2 sentences. But if I say, today I am pulling out my special markers, they will ask for longer writing time. So if you have a place in your house where you just have a drawer these are your writing tools, and you can, you know, add the smelly markers, pens. Kids love to write with pens because they can't erase, and it seems very adult and mature. And have a space to write at home as well. And it doesn't have to be a big space, but if they have their own little desk or a spot on the paper, or even getting a clipboard. Or on Amazon, they have those little lap desks, just something that is their writing space that they can take with them where they want to write. And show interest in your child's writing, be positive, try to get it published. You know, you could write to local senators, or you can write to the school principal. They could write a letter to the teacher over the summer. You can, you know, get those highlights magazines. You always see those kids asking questions. Like, if they have a question, say, wait, why don't we write to somebody and find out? Text messages. Kids are really, you know, I'm not a big technology person, and I don't let my kids have the iPad, but if they want to write to their grandparents and they want to send a text, I'll say, you know, I would say, hey, you can write a text, but first you need to write down what you want put on the phone. And so let them write it out, and then let them take the phone and find the letters and send that text. It is one of the kindergarten teachers, Frau Holt, she was letting her son do that last year when he was learning to write, and we were all getting Felix text messages, and it was really cute. And so when he was 4 years old, it was just emojis, but then it started to become little messages. And yeah, if you are familiar, I do want to show you this. Mrs. Cameroon, oops. Exit. I wanted help me?
Yes, yeah.
I wanted to show you Mrs. Calhoun's blog because she has a really great, like what you could do for homework at home, and it goes through kind of what a week would look like with writing with your kid. I know that little, because that thing, but when you hit exit, it exits and it won't. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is kind of what a week would look like, and so on Monday, you could tell your child, okay, pick a topic, go ahead and write about it, and just let them write. And then on Tuesday, using what they wrote on Monday, you can have your child reread it to you and have them draw an illustration. And I would actually do the opposite in kindergarten. In kindergarten, I would have them just draw a picture, and then the next day, add words. But in first grade, do the words and then add the illustration. And then on Wednesday, using what they wrote on Monday, have them reread it again and see if they can add one of the 5 senses, you know, in their story. Taste, smell, what they saw, what they heard. So, for example, the wet brown dog ran outside, dripping water all over the sidewalk. Or touch could be the soft, fluffy dog ran outside, so adding those 5 sense words, which is something that we talk about in kindergarten and in first grade. And then on Thursday, using what they wrote on Monday, have the child read their writing piece to other people. So, you know, FaceTime grandma, or have them, you know, record it and email it to the teachers. We love having recordings of the students. But this is a good way, and then you can turn it in with the homework. And so I know that in first grade, I think writing is one of the options, but this is a really great guideline, so you're not doing it all in one night. You're taking it over a couple of days, which is just how we approach writing in the classroom.
And I just want to reiterate about the reading it to 2 other people, because when kids feel like there's an audience for their writing, it just makes it so much more powerful.
Yeah, you can exit out of the blog. And then I have some fine motor skill activities that you can do at home that are fun, that really build those fine motor skills. Okay, so these are things that you can do at home. Piggy banks, money banks, having your child, giving them coins and just having them put it into the piggy bank one at a time, because that is actually the same grip that we have with a pencil. Taking egg cartons and beans, or those little, have you seen those like water beads that are really popular now? They start out dry and they add water. Getting some tweezers and having them pick that up and move them into the egg cartons. And the kids are obsessed with those little water beads. It is a big reward if I pass those out in class. Play-Doh, silly putty, even better because it's a little bit harder. Scissor cutting, tearing paper, just little pieces of paper and having them glue it onto like an art piece. And squirt toys, like those bath toys. It sounds silly, but you know, having them like squeeze it and then get it. And games from our childhood. Operation, which is available at Target, as well as Light Bright. It really teaches them to have a lot of those fine motor skills. And then if your child doesn't have enough pressure, having them, just getting a clip and having them do their homework standing up. Because then they cannot rely on their body to push down, they have to rely on their arm to push down. And then doing bear crawls and wheelbarrow races. Because you don't think about it, but you're building that big muscle in the hands when you do those types of activities. Yes?
What about the little Legos?
Little Legos are great. Those are awesome. As well as, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're magnet cubes. They're really tiny cubes and they all stack together. And if you get it, it comes in a cube, and just having them, like a minute to win it, set a timer and have them just take off as many cubes as they can and, you know, see if they can beat a record. Those are really great as well. So, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Mirroring.
Mirroring.
When do you, like, I'm just trying to support him, like you've been saying, but at what stage do we need to start correcting?
So, numbers and letters typically do get mirrored up until about 7 years old. And so we're really not concerned about it until, the middle of first grade. We do have rhymes that go with each of our numbers, and then the same with the letters. We do have, and you can go online for the handwriting without tears and find out what it is that we say. So, start at the top, go to the bottom, slide down, kick out, that's the letter K. But again, that's something that you can correct in the editing part of it. So if Alex writes something and he, on Monday, and he's reading it to you, on Tuesday you could say, let's take a look at all of your letters and make sure they're facing the right way, and have him make those corrections. That's a great question. Yeah, Miri. I'm so used to it, sometimes I have to ask myself, like, what is it? Is this the right way or the wrong way? Any other questions?
I have one who's really not interested in writing at all. Did you already talk about this at the beginning of the segment? Okay,
So he's not interested in writing when you get home? Like he just does it, the writing for the homework or writing just
well,
to
he
write?
just talks to me about how he doesn't like writing, he doesn't like writer's workshop, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But it sounds so fun, and I just started to talk about it, so I don't know why, but
So I think this is what you need to do. So in Writer's Workshop, yours is actually very going with it. I think that I would have him choose an audience, like somebody that would be really special for him to share that writing with. And I would start with him helping you write something that you need at home. So just start it with something simple. Start with a list, hey, we need to get a birthday gift for Dad. Let's write all of our ideas down, what we get, but you write it, you need to hide it in your room. I don't want him to see it, so that it seems really special. Or, hey, let's do a treasure hunt. Can you write out the map and the directions for us to try to find it? And you could do it for him first, and then have him do it for you.
I also wonder about adding novelty to it. If you use sidewalk chalk outside on the driveway, or I know when we practice spelling sometimes with kids, and I know this is about writing, not about spelling specifically, but we'll do shaving cream on wax paper, things like that. So I'm wondering if novelty helps too.
Letting them use a stapler to create their own books. And you just say, this is an adult tool, and show it, but I'm going to show you how to use this stapler because you are a writer, and writers have many pages in their book. And this is such an honor to them. And you just have, get a kid-sized stapler and let them staple their own books together. And then just say, the rule is, if you're going to staple, your pages have to be done first before you staple them together.
And I have one more question. Are there any books that your child is really into?
he loves all books, yeah, he loves reading.
Okay. So I was just wondering if there's a favorite author or something where he wanted to, wanted to just, maybe write a letter to that person or something like that, or see if there's,
Yeah, he needs a why, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The why.
Mhm.
And this is the time to get those whys
Yeah.
now, so that they carry it with them.
We started a pen pal, it's a pen pal in Los Angeles, and they sort of put pictures, and then they kind of do a little bit more words here and there, so it's kind of fun, because they get a piece of mail, and then they want to write back, so sometimes that kind of works.
I think I know the answer to this one, but Alex has been mixing the lowercase letters and the uppercase letters a lot. And again, I'm just trying to support him, and it sounds like we address it in the editing stage, but first grade,
Yes. So what we are starting now in the second year, or in the second half of kindergarten, is having writer's eyes, and they will see this the first day they walk into first grade. These are in all of the first grade classrooms. And what we do is I tell the kids, this is what a first grade teacher expects from you. They expect that you start with a capital letter and the rest are lowercase. That you have punctuation, that you're leaving figure space, and that you're able to reread what you wrote. And then another part of it is sounding out your words. And so I have a chart in the classroom, and the kids take a Post-it note and they create their goal. because asking them to do all of it at once is overwhelming. But if you tell them, this, this month, we are just working on you starting with a capital and the rest lowercase. If all those words are squished together, that's fine. Your goal is starting with a capital, the rest lowercase. And then once they master that goal, getting a sticker on the chart and saying, okay, well now you need to move your Post-it note to the next goal. And so with that, I would take a look at what do you think he needs the most, or what do you think is going to be the easiest for him to accomplish first, and have him choose that goal and just work on that for the homework for the month of March, and then move into April into a new goal. And these are for you guys to take. You could use either dry erase markers to cross them out as they do them.
Is this in the, PowerPoint that we can?
You know what? I can add a link tonight for that PDF. It's a PDF, yeah.
So in the video of your daughter, and she was telling her, that she's mad and she's writing, she's just scribbling.
Yes.
So at this stage in kindergarten, will the kids, like if we do that with kindergartners, will they think I need to be writing the words? Will they, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yes.
he's not just gonna scribble, but he's gonna be thinking about the words that he's trying to write, and will that be more frustrating? Do that.
So I would just say, how can you communicate this to me? So if it's just a picture, it's just a picture. If you want him or her to tell you what it is that they want written down, and you can leave out the first letter sound and have them go back and fill that in. But it's really, and I don't know, because I don't know what that looks like, because I'm a mom of a 2 or 3-year-old, so I didn't have, a big expectation with that. I just want her to know, get your words on the paper, and that means something. Yeah, and she delivers it. And I love when she's mad at my husband, because, she'll write it on, oh, Daddy is upstairs, and like taking too long, go give this to him, and she'll, march it up. So, and it's become a habit now. She, when she gets upset, she doesn't even come and talk to me. She grabs a paper, and now she's at the point, there she's 2, now she's 3. She's not, she scribbles, but she's saying to herself, like, dear Mom, I'm so mad at you, and I can take it. As long as she's writing, I will take that abuse, so. Any other questions?
This is the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is dedicated to you guys, so.
Our son, he's having like a hard time like engaging and then staying, in the whole writing and then, all that. He'll probably do like 5 to 10 minutes, and after that he'll kind of just like, kind of give up. Is it gonna be like our fault for that, or?
Everything's our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think every child is different, and we want to honor and respect where they are developmentally. And so if right now he's at 5 minutes, make it a goal for him to keep adding just 30 more seconds each time, and just saying, I'm coming back, or I'm going to be right here with you, but you're going to write for 5 minutes. And the story that I tell my kids is I say that, and this is kind of true, my husband's a runner and I am not. And so I always tell them, I went out for a run. I thought I was going to do it with my husband the entire time. I lasted just 1 block. I only lasted 2 minutes. And so I said, okay, 2 minutes is a place to start. I'm not going to beat myself up. The next day, I did 3 minutes. And so that's kind of how I introduced that idea of stamina. And I don't know that all of the teachers do that, but that's something that you can talk about with your child, and just really celebrating the time that they do.
I mean, he's really good at, like, he talks forever, but when it comes down to put it in, he likes to draw now. It's something that, I don't know, he just picked up, but he talks a lot, but it's, as soon as we ask him to put it on paper, and if, he's just like, oh.
And get a little timer. That helps a lot. And kind of set a goal, I'm gonna set this timer, when this timer goes off, I'd like to see a picture. Or I'd like to see you label 1 word. And have kind of that novelty, that reward, celebrating how much. Send me a little note.
I'm just wondering if he likes, when you say he talks a lot, does he like telling you stories?
A lot, like, of everything.
So what if, and I don't know what you think about this, but if like you start just writing down the stories for him, and then he gets to illustrate them,
Yeah.
and that's his
What
book.
we do is like,
That's
we
the
read a
start.
book to him, and then we have him like narrate it back, like, in any way he can. I mean, pictures, letters, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it just seems it's new to us, so. But it's
I
fun
think
to-
if you make it special, turn it into
challenging.
something that can really help, so.
Yeah, it really does.
Yes, I have a question. My son, I think he's left-handed, so he usually writes with the left, but then in the middle of it, he'll use the right hand. But then I force him to use the left hand, because I want him like to pick like either or, because he usually uses both hands. He throws with the right, he usually writes with the left, he kicks with the right, so it's kind of confusing.
That was my brother. That was my brother. He did the same thing. My little brother Mario did the same thing for.
And it's kind
Does
of
he
hard.
switch at a part in the paper where it's
Probably a center line.
a center line? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's left-handed. The teacher is not quite sure yet. I think he's left-handed by writing, because the throw, he throws with the right and kicks with the right. Better than the left.
I don't want to give you the wrong answer because that's really an occupational therapy, question. But afterwards, let me get your email,
Okay.
and then I will reach out to our OT and ask them because I don't know how I would. My instinct is to say let them write how they're comfortable as long as they're gripping the pencil the right way. If they switch, I don't really see a
Yeah, I
problem.
think he writes better with the left, but then I think he gets tired, or I don't know what happened, and he would change hands. I'm like, wait.
I wish I could do that. That would be really nice to be able to.
No, but it's kind of frustrating for me because
Yeah.
he needs to pick either or, because he needs to really practice with one hand so he can become better writer, or I don't know. Or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
If you can just write your email on a Post-it note, and
Oh,
I will
okay.
reach out to our OT and ask what advice they can offer.
Oh,
I don't want to give you the wrong advice.
I used to do that when I was a little girl, and then suddenly just switch to the right. But however, now I can write with both.
Oh.
But of course, it's gonna be totally different, right? Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with my brother. It took him like second grade. He's like, oh, I'm right-handed. I'm going left, he's going left. And it's
Okay,
like,
'cause
they're like, this is cool. Like, I saw it, I'm like, why is my brother? Like, he's like, shoot pencil. He's like.
I know, but it's frustrating
Yeah,
because
it's
I'm like,
As a parent now,
be
it's
good with
frustrating.
one hand.
As long as you don't drive with both feet too.
Yeah, I don't know. He got older. He chose a side.
Just
He
had
made
a
a choice.
preference.
Right, yeah, you choose.
I don't know. That's from, as a parent, I'll be kind of frustrated.
On that same note, just on a general, that note, if you do have a left-handed child who's learning to write, is there anything special we need to know?
Just the space for them. So I make sure that my left-handed kids, well, the way our tables are set up, it's okay. But if you're at like a rectangle table, just to make sure that they have the space, if they're writing in close proximity to anybody else, providing them that space. And that's kind of it. Yeah. Scissors are different. There are left-handed scissors that we have in the classroom for our left-handed kids.
This is just more comments about some that I was trying to get that children. I have a 19-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. And the 6-year-old was actually with Mrs. Roselle last year, but he really, and I do this with both of them, I got them to choose a journal, like from the 9 and 10 store or something. And it was fun, it was just like, oh, you can choose whatever you want. And that's the journal that he uses when he's really mad, or if you just want to do homework in that for one day and pull it out of that, or just take it for like it's there. So my 19-year-old, who was the avid writer now, she pretty much used to write notes like that too. Just angry notes.
Yeah.
And that lasted a long time. So today. But it helps, and I think it just makes them feel like they have their own thing. And I think, narrowing that too, just, I always have notepad, and he always has his. So it helps, maybe that's why it helps with, those are not very interesting right now.
Now with the grip, my son has trouble with gripping the pencil, and when I remind him when he's writing, he knows how it's supposed to be gripped, but he always goes back to this. I don't even know how he grabs it because I can't like mimic what he does, but he grabs it in a different way.
It's
and
amazing how they write sometimes. Like they have it like this, and they'll have beautiful penmanship, but it's just not the right grip.
Right.
So I would have. There's a couple suggestions I have. Do binder clips. Are you from?
Yes.
You know, if you have a binder clip and you put it onto the pencil.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
Yeah, you could, and then the
And then
child
that-
has to
because
grip it the right way because you can't grip it the wrong way with the binder clip going into you. I wish I had a visual. And then there are these really good. Oh, you have binder clip? Perfect. And here's a pencil. Wow, that was really impressive.
I know what you're gonna show me. I've tried that. I've even gone to like the lake shore and bought him all the little things, like where he can put his little fingers in and everything, but he gets frustrated, so he actually just pulls it out and he'll just go back to his usual way.
What is comfortable with him, especially, and we have to remember that when a child is writing, it's like learning how to drive a car for the first time. There are so many gears turning in that brain, and so, yes, we want to promote the pencil grip, and we want to celebrate that, but if he's producing a lot of work and he gets tired and starts to slip, it might be a time to say, let's take a break. I can see that it's really hard for you to grab that pencil. But there is one pencil grip that I'm thinking of in particular that actually he has to put his fingers inside. You have it, and he just takes his fingers out.
He pull it out of the pencil. I have that one.
He needs to be in my class because my SMART goal this year is all about handwriting, and this would be a good challenge for me.
Like everything, like I actually went to Lakeshore and I bought the little, it has a little 3.
Yeah, it's like kind of like rubbery, and then it
each finger has
and it forces them to.
Yeah, he'll pull it out and then he'll just start writing his way. And when he's doing his homework, I will tell him that's not the way he grips, and then he knows how. He puts the pencil the way it's supposed to be, and he'll do like a word and go back to his.
It's really hard to break a habit. I've been teaching kindergarten for 10 years. I had 1 year in second grade, and I was like, no, take me back to kindergarten. But I even have, the kids will say to me, like, you're not holding the pencil correctly, and it's because I just learned, or, I taught myself the wrong way. It's really hard to correct it. So kudos to you. Keep trying, it just takes, it's the power of habit.
I even tried like getting clothespins and then pom-poms so that he could
I was going to say, any
his
Legos,
fingers.
like she suggested, little Legos, because then you have to use that grip and it becomes more natural.
Yeah.
And playing those games of like the drop it, pick it up, drop it, pick it up, and seeing, how many times can you drop it and pick it up correctly in a minute, and,
Yeah, so I guess that's my question. Is it that important that he does that grip, or can he just go on his own way of gripping the way he feels comfortable, and he writes better actually the way he grips
So
it?
is the way that he grips, so I think it depends on how they're really gripping it. So some kids will grip, like this, and it's not that it's completely wrong. We suggest like this, but this doesn't have to be it. But if he's gripping the pencil,
Not
like
that.
this.
He uses his fingers, but it's like I don't know if he's like double jointed, or I don't know what it is.
It could be.
That he holds his pencil like.
And he has nice handwriting?
With the way he writes. I'm just surprised that Mrs. Cook and Paul Brown haven't, said anything to him about it, or maybe they do, but they haven't mentioned it to me. But I just noticed that when he's doing homework at home, he'll go to his own way instead of doing the.
Yeah, I'd have to see it to really know if it's worth the battle of correcting.
Okay.
Because like I said, there are some kids that just have lovely handwriting, and they just, it's slightly off, but it's, well enough that their posture is okay and that they're able to have that flow of writing. But it's hard for me if I don't see what it looks like.
I can't even do it.
Yeah.
I just know that
Take a video and send it to Mrs.
I
Cook.
just try to put he knows how it's supposed to be gripped. It's just, he just goes back to his way, yeah.
Well, I have a question for you about. He plays all day long and he finishes his homework. However, before he goes to sleep, is when he becomes very creative and he actually what he chooses to write. And if he really wants to write all the way to probably 9 or before he's close to bedtime, and if it's Friday, he's always asking because it's still around 11, so he comes to write. Of course, if it's going to be a school day, I don't know, stay late, and he tells me that I am preventing him from being creative.
shows up, I can send all this.
Yeah, he's saying I'm gonna be the next Dr. Seuss, and you're gonna let him. And I feel bad, but I don't know why he chooses to write before he goes to sleep. I know he's not making an excuse of it, but he really gets very creative.
Well, maybe it's the same as, when we do bedtime stories at night, maybe you do writing time at night. And with the bedtime stories, I'm sure my daughter would love to stay up later and, give more and more books to me, but we have a 3-book limit and that's it. And so maybe you just set a timer and then say when the timer goes off, you dream about those ideas for tomorrow. Oh, here's your.
We had a funny conversation today in Ross Samuel's class at my little table when I was volunteering. They were writing T's, uppercase and lowercase t's. And in their book, they were written like the T's up there with the little curl at the end.
Yes.
And then, and I think in handwriting without tears, it's straight.
It's straight,
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's interesting that the T's are different. Have you guys talked about this? And they're like, oh, this must be the German way that they write. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna roll with it.
The books in German have a lot of the chameleon and it has the curves like very nice and fancy. And so it is funny, the kids will be like, this is English week, we write the English way. And they do try to mimic those German books, yeah.
So it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
These teachers have trained them so well because I volunteer I don't volunteer, I work here, but I'm in kinder a lot, and they tell me that my grip is incorrect. They notice with me, so.
Well, like Sebastian, like I said earlier, the cue, you can go straight, you can do a little thing, and he's like, oh, why can't you do it like straight, why can't you do it like this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Different writing.
And then he's like, is it English, is it German? I'm like, can you both?
Different writing styles. And when we teach numbers too, they really like the fancy 4. So I'll teach them, like, this is the 4 that we write in kindergarten, but this is the fancy 4. Don't tell those first grade teachers I'm showing you. And then during the year, they'll write that fancy 4 because a 4 is a 4 either way. It's not a big deal if they write it one way or the other.
And like those screws behind you, the little hooks. And then you look at the principal, the balance or whatever, and it's straight.
Yeah.
So why is it straight and then why is there a hook? Because like really into it.
You know, Sebastian.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you all so much for coming. I hope that you can take something home with you. Please open up a